Welcome back to Kaely Daily. Today's question is, how does the Bradley Method of childbirth education work?
This is Kaely Daily, the bi-weekly podcast about all things doula tips and tits, where we answer one question about pregnancy, labor, postpartum, or lactation in order to have your journey in this parenting world be just a little bit more informed and filled with consent.
Hello and welcome back to Kaely Daily. We are joined today by my lovely dear friend who is also a doula and childbirth educator, Irene Kim. And she is going to answer our question for today. So Irene, before we dive into the question, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the birth work world.
Sure. Hi, Kaely. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. So I am a doula as well as a childbirth educator. Specifically, I teach the Bradley Method of childbirth. So I've been doing this maybe about, I get asked this question so many times and I feel like I have to calculate it every time.
I know.
I guess officially I've been doing it for about 7 years. And kind of unofficially, more casually, a few years before that, when I had my first baby, he's now 11 years old. So it's been a little over a decade, which is crazy looking back. But yeah, I got really passionate and interested in the whole birthing world when I, had my own babies. I think a lot of us feel that way with our experiences. But yeah, so I have now 4 children. 3 are biological, 1's adopted. So I birthed 3 and, but we have 4 and we actually have multiple because we've, done adoption, foster care and things like that. But right now we have 4.
Yeah, it's a transient number.
It is. It's changing every day. But yes, we have 4. And so at the very beginning of, my first pregnancy, I really did not know what to expect and really had very little preparation. And I was really just very oblivious and, found out very quickly there was a lot I didn't know. And so, I took a class of my own, the Bradley Method with my husband, and it really changed our whole perspective on birth. I don't even know if we had a perspective. We were just so innocent. We were the first of our friends to have babies. And so we really had no idea. But when we took the class, we were like, wow, what if we didn't take this class? There was so much I didn't even know I should know, and so that really helped us and prepared us. I had a doula at my birth who was also my Bradley teacher at the time. And that was
awesome.
Lovely. She's like an angel. And so she really inspired me and showed me what a beautiful, positive birth could be like. And I didn't know anything else because that was my first kid, but I did realize there was another end of the spectrum when I started to meet women who had really traumatic births, some even being my friends. And so very quickly, I realized what a difference education and support can make in your birth. And so that's kind of how I got started with this whole thing.
Yeah. I do think a lot of us have that experience of like unofficially we started when we had our first kid. Yes. Yeah. And I think it is very common to be like, I'm going to teach you all the things I didn't know that I needed to know, like that's where this is going to start because I want you to be more prepared than I was. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it could be a very sensitive topic. Sometimes you don't want to give like unsolicited advice and things like that. Yeah. And, it can be very personal, it is a very personal, vulnerable event. Yeah. And so I felt like I needed a place to do that rather than just kind of going around. And so I think that's when I was like, okay, maybe I should make this more, an official thing and, give people who want information the information. So
yeah, you've signed up for information from me.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So today's question is, how does the Bradley Method work? So we're kind of exploring different forms of childbirth education and in hopes of helping people hone in on what method of education is best for them or fits kind of their like desires, etc. So I'm going to hand that over to you because I admittedly know very little about how the Bradley Method works.
is why I'm here, Kaely. No problem. All right. So the Bradley method, there's so much I can say about it. Let's just start by saying it encourages natural childbirth, but I'm going to start with that, but also debunk the myth that people, I think that when they hear natural birth, they feel like we mean we don't want any interventions. We don't believe in any interventions. We don't want you to do anything other than just birth by yourself at your house. That's not that's not the Bradley method. When I say natural childbirth, I just really mean that Dr. Bradley, the founder of, this whole method, he really believed in the process of birth, it being a natural act, a natural event, something that our bodies were designed to do. He had a lot of confidence in our body, the woman's body, to be able to do this. So Dr. Bradley kind of grew up on a farm. He had many siblings, and he grew up watching his mom have kids like at their house. He grew up watching animals have babies. It was just a very natural part of his life. It wasn't a medical emergency where you had to rush to the hospital. Like that was kind of like, wait, why are you going to the hospital? That's where sick people go. We're just having a baby here. It was a very natural thing. Yes, if there were complications and things like that, that's when you go, but general bottom line is that birth is very natural. It's very beautiful. It's private, it's sacred, and there are some basic needs that women have in order to birth naturally. And so he saw, his siblings being born, these animals, and then he grew up and became a doctor and in obstetrics, right? And so he was in the hospital, and he started to see these women rush to the hospital, right, for childbirth. And the husbands were kept out in the waiting room. They were thought to be pretty useless, right? Like, you just stay out here, we got the mom. And so he would bring these women in, and they're just terrified and they have no idea what to do. And so he began to coach these women. He began to kind of offer suggestions in terms of just very basic things that he saw that a woman would need in childbirth, right? So just the support of a person, quiet, peaceful environment, very private, and then, just bringing in all the things that would make you feel safe and, secure, supported, loved, all of those things. And he would coach these women through birth, and these women would have children and be like, oh my gosh, like, thank you, Dr. Bradley. Like, I love you. I love you. Like, he really walked them through, and he started to feel like, wait, why am I doing this? This would be so much better if the husbands were doing this. And so he slowly began to think about this, and then, just over the course of time, develop this method where it's not just focused on natural childbirth and teaching, what to expect, what your body would normally do, but also teaching to the partner. So the other, I guess, name for Bradley method is husband coach childbirth. And so that's what it started off as. And of course, your support person doesn't have to be your husband. It could be, your mom, your sister, your partner, whoever it is. But the word husband, like how you husband your materials, that's like the other word, you care for things. And so whoever your support person is, the method really teaches to both people, not just the mom, but the support person. It's very focused on that. It really believes that it's not just a woman alone. And so he teaches very much to whoever's going to be there how to support a woman through pregnancy and childbirth. It's also a very comprehensive course. So whereas I feel like a lot of methods focus on like the technique, like breathing and deep breathing and relaxation. We definitely emphasize that throughout the entire course, but it's also very comprehensive in that we talk about exercise, nutrition, how to keep a low risk pregnancy, talk about postpartum, breastfeeding, just like the entire journey, even variations that may occur. We are not oblivious to that, for sure. We know that, things can happen and interventions that are out there. And so we talk about that, how to communicate with medical providers in terms of having, informed consent, all of that. So it's a comprehensive course that really believes in the woman's ability to birth and just the natural course of labor, but also, is very mindful of all the medical things as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, so this would be a good method for people to explore if they're wanting an unmedicated birth for sure.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question for you, which
Hmm.
is,
Sure.
what does it look like in I know, well, one of the things about all different childbirth classes is that regardless of what like what the curriculum entails, right? They're taught differently, of course, by different
Mhm.
people.
Sure.
So I don't expect you to know how every Bradley Method teacher ever teaches.
Uh-huh.
But for you in your class, how do you integrate in like informed risk and benefit analysis of interventions and things like that when that's not the emphasis of the class? Is that part of kind of like not knowing if those things could come up in the midst of labor? Is that part of the process or no?
Yeah, so there is like a class devoted to that topic.
Okay,
So
perfect.
yeah, so the full Bradley course is 12 weeks long.
Wow.
It's 12
Yeah.
weeks. It's very comprehensive.
Uh-huh.
2 hours each class.
Yep.
It's long. I did the full 12-week class, and so that's what I took when I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Are there abbreviated versions of the class? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely encourage the 12-week because it
Yeah.
really, I guess, drives everything home. I think
Yeah.
if you're looking for a natural birth, and even if you're not, even if you're just looking to get educated, like we
Mm-hmm.
don't just take people who want to go without an epidural. It's
Okay. Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
because you're gonna experience a lot of the
Yeah.
things regardless, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, so it's normally 12 weeks. You get really prepared. I teach a lot of the condensed versions of it. So like I
Mm-hmm.
can teach like a 4-week class if there's like a couple who, their due dates is less than 12 weeks away, or,
Yeah.
different situations. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so in the 4-week class, like class number 3, we talk about
Okay.
variations and interventions. We
Okay.
talk about informed consent, and things like that. And
Yeah.
there's so many things that can happen in birth. It's
Yeah.
impossible to cover everything. Yeah, like every
And
birth is
and
so different.
also unhelpful, I would argue, to cover every possible thing that could happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but we talk about some of the most common things
Yeah.
that you may see that may
Yep.
pop up, and how to kind of navigate through the process of dealing with these
Yeah.
variations.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. And you mentioned that Dr. Bradley kind of started out with like, seeing his mom give birth at home and that kind of thing. But one myth I think is that's around this method is that it is for home and birth center birth and not for hospital birth. That sounds like that's not the case for you at least.
Yeah, definitely not. It
Yeah.
it teaches to everyone. It teaches to whoever is
Yeah.
birthing wherever you are, for
Okay.
sure. I think that's a myth around even doulas as well, because I feel like
Oh,
a
for
lot of
sure.
my friends are like, only people who want unmedicated births find doulas, right? I was like, absolutely not. Like,
No.
absolutely not. And any woman who's had a baby will tell you,
Yeah.
whether you had an epidural or not, you need the
Yeah.
support for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even in C-sections, I feel like
Oh yeah.
the more support you have, the better in like most things in life,
Oh
but
yeah. True.
especially birth.
True. Yep. Yep,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
So as a doula, as an educator, it's
Yeah,
for people who want home birth, who want a
yeah,
birth at a birth center, who want a birth at a hospital.
yeah,
Some people just feel better birthing at a hospital, but they
yeah,
want to try maybe for a natural birth, or maybe they want to start as much as they can, and
yeah,
then but they're open to different things,
yeah,
wherever you are. Um,
yeah,
Still, I feel like education and support is really key to having a better, positive, low
yeah,
risk, healthy pregnancy and birth, for sure.
yeah, yeah. That's
Mhm.
awesome. So one of the things that I like to ask as we kind of wrap up this episode is how people can connect with you or follow your work or any of that. So where would you like people to seek you out?
Gosh, I am not so great with, like, what is it? Social
Social
media stuff.
media. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
not so great with what's it called?
Yeah, I know. I I'm pretty old school, but I do have an account. I do have an Instagram account and a Facebook account,
Yeah,
like a
perfect.
page.
Uh-huh.
I'm not like so active on it, but I try
Yeah.
to post here and there. So I'm
Okay.
Irene the Doula. So
Okay.
on Instagram, Irene the Doula, and
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is the same with my Facebook, or it's like birth classes and doula support by Irene or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I can type it out for you.
Yes, I'll make sure that it's in the show notes so people can connect with you. I
Awesome.
really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. And I am excited to get to see you also because that's a lovely, just fun thing in this world that we like work by ourselves so often.
I
So,
know. It's true.
yeah. Okay, well, stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to be diving into a couple different other methods. And until then, I wish you consent-filled, well-informed births.
These episodes are edited and produced by Kaely Harrod, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And our amazing music is credited in the show notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, have wonderful and consent-filled births.